Hello, everyone, and welcome to From Friend Zone to Front Page, How to Win Google's Heart. This is a webinar by BusyWeb. We do these once a month, and we value your feedback and input. So if you do have a request for upcoming content that you'd like to hear from us, we would love to help you deliver. A little bit about us and who we are before we get into the official program today. I am the president and founder of BusyWeb. We are based in Minneapolis, and we have a team of 23 wonderful folks who would love to help you with inbound marketing, CRM, specifically HubSpot, sales enablement, advertising, and all of the automation that goes into not only drawing leads to our clients' companies, but also helping them convert those leads into new deals and sales. Please connect with us on LinkedIn or YouTube or any of those places. Would love to have you with us and following us. And a good chunk of you are already subscribed to our newsletter and get updates. Would love to see you there and to get any feedback you have. Thank you again, and you can also reach us at the contact info on screen. As a note for folks who are watching live on YouTube, you can ask questions via the chat on that page at youtube.com/busyweb. Or, of course, if you're registered and attending live in today's Zoom webinar, you can just chat right in here. And if we want, at the end, I will stop the broadcast and we can actually do live Q&A if you want to dig deeper on something where it makes more sense to talk, but you don't necessarily want to be recorded on the YouTube channel. So let's get started and talk about how to share the love with Google. One of the comments that we got during registration today was love the metaphor. And I think it's kind of a rough relationship with Google right now, isn't it? We send it flowers via posts and content, and it seems like maybe sometimes they're leaving us unread and they're not maybe giving us the content that we're looking for. And maybe they're repurposing our content and presenting it as their own without any specific links back to our site. So if Google is feeling like a bad partner instead of a good one, we've got some tips ahead for you today. And there's a bunch of things that are actually changing to make this part of our challenge. So there's three big things that are changing the search climate in general. And so, I'm going to talk through all of these in more detail in subsequent slides, but really in general, AI is making a big change to how things are working, not only from a Google presenting things differently via their AI SERP pages or SERP requests, but really the competition that's coming in with Perplexity and Bing search and ChatGPT and all of the others are really kind of shaking things up. And we're seeing a market improvement or decline, I guess, in search quality. And as a matter of fact, search volatility or the ranking and the consistency of results has increased by 25% year over year from 2003 to 2000 or 2023 to 2024. So that's according to Patel Digital. And we're actually in a new partnership with Patel, and they're giving us all kinds of great little tasty nuggets on this stuff. But, as we look at focusing on interacting with your devices more, going into search via just talking to your phone, that has an entirely different connection. We actually have a great blog post about that on the BusyWeb blog if you'd like to hear more about how to optimize for voice search. We're indexing for mobile more than ever, and especially for companies, which a lot of our customers are in B2B, in the B2B world, they're focusing on businesses, but most of the people that they work with or that we connect with don't necessarily sit in front of a computer all day. And so going for prioritization of content that shows up well and perfect via a seamless experience is super helpful. While Google still commands a 63% of all US web traffic, that's all traffic in the US on the internet. They roll out more than 12 algorithm changes per day. So the fact that no one really has the full answer to any of this is not a surprise. And it is very much a wait and see and play around with content and always focus on the best core tenets of search engine optimization, which of course include massive quality and frequent updates. So we're going to talk more about that, of course. But again, if you have any questions, we've got a bunch of attendees online right now. If you have specific questions, I have saved all of your Q&A until the end that you submitted. But if you have anything that pops up, make sure to pop that into the webinar chat so we can get to you. All right, so in order to share the love with Google and actually see more information and get your content to continue to rank better, you have to realize that things have changed quite a bit. Anyone that's been paying a lot of attention noticed that in November 2024, there was a massive Google Core update that did impact a whole slew of rankings, especially affiliate page links. So if you are, or if you were trusting link farms or quality ranking engines like, um, let's see, like SEO farmhouses and things. CNN actually had a bunch of low quality stuff, decrease all of their content. A bunch of news article or news organizations saw a dramatic decrease. But the whole just have a link to as many places as possible doesn't work anymore. So if you have an investment with them, I would probably encourage you to seek other ways to connect and to gain links. User experience, the faster your website can be, the better it's going to do in general. And again, they're focusing on a quality experience as much as quality content now. So if you have a website that has a super fancy video on the top of the site that requires 15 seconds to load, you might want to reconsider that for 2025 and forward because it just isn't worth the extra weight for the user and for the robots that are going through and connecting all of this. So focus on content that can be harvested and that is helpful and useful. And then of course, quality is definitely still important. So if you were thinking about an overall strategy, I would collect as many of the qualifying questions that your customers need to have answered and start putting out content on those answers to those questions on a regular cadence. What we're trying to do is to weed out low quality AI content. Again, there was a massive explosion with ChatGPT and all of the other places that are generating content. Seems like every place has a blog generator now where you can hit a button and get words that are in English or your language of choice and that sort of make sense, but you can kind of tell that they're built by a robot. Seems like a seventh grade book report. There's a lot of circular logic and connections. Sometimes there's factual inadequacies that are presented with 100% confidence, aka hallucinations. And so you need to keep track of that and make sure that any content that ever smells or is hinted of being generated by AI or augmented by AI has a human's touch and a human hand at the end of it to make sure that it's still quality content that meets the needs and the expectations of your actual audience. So much more on that coming up in a few minutes. But Google has been reducing rankings for those affiliate sites, for the low quality link buildings. We are actually in the middle of doing some big things to all of our client sites to help them improve their results, including removing backlinks that don't pay out anymore, and tools like SEMrush or Answer the Public or any of the other ones are helpful and are helping you point out those low quality backlinks. So make sure that you're paying attention or that you're using a additional tool other than just Google and maybe analytics. And then with Google's algorithm, there is a ton of new things that are happening. I outlined a couple of these, but really focusing on a solid and beneficial user experience. This is different than just having a pretty website. It's a useful site that gives good experience and answer questions is going to be the best general improver of your content or of your results. And high quality, informative, and engaging content is one of those things that we just need to have in our arsenal. And so the age of, if there ever was an age of just using AI to generate content and calling it done, that age is not being met if you want to still rank on Google. And really, if you want to rank anywhere, just trying to game a specific system set or tool is over. What you need to do is be the most useful person or the most useful resource for your intended audience on the web, period, bar nonstop. So the more content you have, the more resources, videos, informative, helpful links or clicks or connections, ongoing series. We're going to talk a little bit about engaging more community and focusing on social media to try and generate more traffic and interaction is super helpful. But you also need to remember, understand, and tweak your content based on search intent. So if the intent of a search is informational versus transactional, you need to give people different content and different context. So if you're going for a specific kind of search intent to the detriment of any others, you are probably going to be missing out on traffic because different traffic hits at different times, and based on the user's browsing history and or their interactions with their search tool of choice, those intents can change and the results that you get from those search intents are going to be very different. So that's a whole lot of words to say: be useful, be informative, be helpful, and remember that there's no substitute for good, solid, quality content. All right, so we know that there's a problem. We know that things have changed quite a bit in the past year based on all of this AI stuff and the big algorithm changes and just the needs changing of the general population. So how do we actually win our client's heart? Well, here are the main things that I want to talk through today. I am going a little fast because I have a whole bunch of content. So folks that are live on the webinar, either on the Zoom or in YouTube, feel free to chat me and ask me follow-up questions as we go through this, and or we can pause and open up the lines if you just want to talk at the end of our chat today, and I will stop the broadcast on YouTube for that case because I don't want to record you without your permission. So the big things that we're going to talk through is optimizing for search intent. Again, we talked about weeding out low quality AI content and making sure that we're balancing. It's kind of like the food pyramid in the olden days, search intent is. So you can't load up on only carbs or only sweets. You need to have different search intents for different ways and ranks, because based on what the user is telling its robot or its Googlebot, it's going to want to deliver different things. So focus on those things. Leverage EEAT. I'm going to get into what that is in a minute, but that is how the user behaves and how to connect better with the user from Google's perspective. So it's about more than user behavior, in that search intent is only, or is not just about keywords anymore. You might not rank for digital marketing services, for our example, or on every search for that term, but you might rank on that term and variations for your audience if you're doing content and SEO correctly. So digital marketing services might not, but writing for optimized blogs might work out, right? So having those different things based on if someone's looking for more information, or they're ready to buy, or they're ready to connect, or they just want to explore alternatives, that's how you want to approach this. Optimizing for AI search, since AI overviews have gotten a lot of attention, and the core updates at the end of 2024 seemed to devalue purely AI generated content in favor of human augmented content. The latest cleanup reinforces a preference for Google to prioritize the humanness of content for especially the page one content. So you need to connect up on that and get it moved forward. Community engagement and video are great ways to stand out in that space. We're going to talk about that inside of content strategy. And then you need to make sure that you're measuring and refining your content and exploring all of those other tools to make sure that you're showing up well. There's Perplexity, there's Gemini, aka Google's AI search results. There's ChatGPT, there's DeepSeek, there's all kinds of alternatives. Make sure that you're tinkering with those to see how you show up for your most common terms, and take note of where you don't show up well and start to identify ways to connect by being more useful, more helpful, and providing more content around those. Angela had said she has a question about taking verification videos for Google and where she gets the message that it may take them 5 days to verify. So I will absolutely help you with that at the end of our chat today. So be sure to recommend. And if we don't get to that, Angela, I would recommend just send me an email at dave@busyweb.com, because I have some Google contacts that we can use to tap into to answer those questions, because especially verification videos seem to be tough, and I won't get into too much on that, but the Google Maps team that used to handle that was dramatically changed in the past year. So that might be part of what you're seeing some issues with. So great question, Angela. And again, for our attendees, by all means, please go ahead and ask those questions as they come. All right, so let's talk about optimizing for search intent. I've teased around about this a couple of times, but there's different things that you need to think about at different phases of the buyer's journey. So, doing good keyword research that identifies what those people are searching for from several different contexts is going to be helpful. Am I just looking for information? Am I looking to actually process a transaction? Am I exploring alternatives? Am I trying to reconnect after engaging already? What is that? So focusing on the different keywords that phrase different phases of the buyer's journey and engage with them at those special levels or those different levels is super helpful. To optimize your content around topics and information that actually address search intent and provides valuable information. It might be the difference between having a blog post about when you're choosing a digital marketing partner, to tie back to our earlier example, or what to know when you're considering help with digital marketing, right? So it's slightly different from a phrasing, but that's what you need to think about. And you also need to consider and interact with those other engines. So Perplexity is much more of a question-based tool where you're literally just asking it questions. Or if you're using ChatGPT, especially on mobile, you're going to note that a lot of people just hit the microphone and talk to it. And same thing goes with Google search. So having those question-based H1, H2 tags is going to be helpful. Speaking of tags and descriptions, making sure that every bit of content on your website is optimized for what your audience is looking for. Having a picture on your blog post that says img3031.jpg is no way to connect and to tell those little robots what you're trying to get found for. If you have great content and blog posts and paragraphs of helpful information that are peppered with keywords that are not overbearing, but helpful and interesting, that have images, that have title tags and meta descriptions that describe the same problem that you're looking for, and that have links that have alt descriptions or text that give people additional context and that relate again to what that search intent is going to be, you're going to see better results. I know I'm getting a little bit nerdy here when we talk about title tags, meta descriptions, H1, H2s, all of that stuff. If you're working in a premium content website builder like HubSpot, Content Hub, for example, which is our absolute favorite, or WordPress, or really any other major mainstream CMS or content management system, they all have search engine optimization tools built in them. I really love HubSpot because it rolls everything into the content and you can interact with your users better. It's also far more secure, faster, and easier to optimize and use than almost any WordPress. We built 300, or we were hosting 300 WordPress websites by the time we migrated away from WordPress. I get WordPress. It's got its own little unique set of challenges. One of those is that it's just a big set of Lego bricks that people can build any way they want. And at this point right now, we've got a CEO of the WordPress community that is knocking over your Lego bricks kind of ad hoc. So you need to be careful. There are plugins that are just going away or not being supported, or people that are being blocked out of updating their WordPress's security. So be careful on all of that. But that's my little mini soapbox of the day. I teased about EAT, EEAT. That stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And that basically relates to how useful and helpful are you to the people that matter most in the space. So you're optimizing for the person that is reading, not necessarily for the robot that's digesting that information, right? So when we talk about experience, really, does the creator have relevant life experience? So you're giving real anecdotes, examples, case studies, those kinds of things that represent a real knowledge, a real working knowledge of whatever you're sharing. Expertise, same thing, and this is a little bit deeper. The old EAT was just expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness, but experience has now come in to give more detail. But do you have, or can you speak cogently about the content that you're talking about? Authoritativeness, how many links do you have going back and forth to your website? How many references, how comprehensive is the information that you're sending? And trustworthiness, how reliable and accurate is that content? If you have things that disagree with each other quite a bit on your website, or that disagree with the general knowledge that's hoovered up in the Googlebot, you're not going to have as much useful results as you would if your content jives with the other trusted sources out on the web. So you have to stand out by being as useful as possible. So optimizing for AI intent then, and for making sure that you show up on all of those other places, Perplexity, Gemini, or OpenAI and ChatGPT, all those, make sure that you have a relevance to your content that is 100% user focused. So what people do when they talk with these chatbots is they're literally asking them questions like they would their robot butler, right? So you're asking them what you need, and you have to have content in regular language. The old days of optimizing for a keyword and having all kinds of headings that explicitly called out a specific topic over and over again. It needs to be conversational now, and it needs to have clear, common sense content. There's no more tricking the system by having a specific taxonomy to your content. And so giving more detail is going to be helpful. So focus on the user. Need to have comprehensive answers. That just means that you probably need to have more content on your pages than you used to. The old rule of thumb was 300 words or more in a blog post. Really comprehensive posts are running into the 700 up to 1,000 word answers that have different sections that link to other parts of your website and or other authoritative places. The more people can use your website as a one-stop shop for information, or as a hub for all the information they need about what you do, the more comprehensive and the better you're going to show up, not only in search, but also across all of those AI searches. And then AI enhanced originality. So you can use AI content, but use it as a starting point. Use it as a brainstorm tool. Use it to flesh out topics or thoughts. Use it to reconnect and to dig deeper. So I like to start with maybe a chat with my favorite AI tool. Ella is one of our favorites from Atomic Elevator, and be sure to ask us about it. It's a marketing enhanced AI tool that basically connects all of the knowledge and know-how of like Seth Godin and or everything that you can learn inside of SEMrush or Neil Patel Digital, all of that stuff. And it puts it all into one spot. If you can generate content, have it be helpful and comprehensive, and then add your human spin on it based on your knowledge and your expertise, and then go back and ask the AI chatbot based on what we've got so far, what did I miss? Or I'm also trying to reach people with this search intent or this buyer's intent. What else do I need to add? Is a great way to help you bolster that content and that information. So it's more about collaborating with AI instead of letting AI do the work for you. There's still no such thing as a free lunch. Even if you've purchased a robot chef to create your lunches for you, you still have to give it that tool and you still have to get that pinch of salt at the end to make sure that it tastes perfect. So if you've got that content out there, you can always get more. And then semantic richness. Incorporate related concepts and conceptual information, ideally across other places on your website. Again, what you're going for is a comprehensive resource that includes other places and other knowledge. And if you've been doing this a while, you'll have more content. It's the pillar page concept where you have a core topic and then you have all kinds of other things that relate to that content, that core topic, and it gives you all of the information that you're looking for, right? So having that helpful and out there is super, super easy to grow, but you do need to think about how to engage at that level. And this is, I have a five-step process here that, um, go figure, I actually augmented with AI to make sure that we were talking about these. So if you're in a business to business engagement, most of the folks that are on our call here are dealing with other businesses and or with people. So always make sure that your website is as quick as possible, that it performs well. Get rid of those big, heavy images or the highfalutin fancy videos that are all across your entire screen. That was cool in 2016, 17, but it's just slow now. Another reason why I don't love WordPress anymore is that there are so many plugins that all have their own little bits of code and junk that they add to the source code. All of that needs to be downloaded and digested by the browser of choice. And so all of that stuff can slow your website down for the people and the devices that matter most. And while we're talking about devices, of course, making sure that your website is optimized for mobile, just realize people are thinking about you and your company and what you can do at almost any time. They have these little supercomputers in their pockets and they're not going to wait to go back to their PC to check it out. I mean, you might have some content that way, but assume that first people are going to whip their phones out of their pockets and ask it, okay, Google or hey Siri, and ask what it's going to do, right? Um, Structured data, making sure that you're properly organizing your content, using those tags, the H1, H2, H3s, making sure that you're using bulleted lists and content to make it scannable, but also readable, making sure that you're tagging your images with keyword optimized content, not only in the image alt description, but also in the text and even in the name now is super helpful. Also labeling links. You have alt text that you can put over links. Your links shouldn't just be click here. The link text should be related to what you're linking to and be helpful, useful, and informative. and ideally include the keywords that you're trying to be found for. What you're trying to do is give Google as many symbols that you're the resource that they need to be referring in order to get them to rank you higher in those searches. And then, of course, internal linking. I've talked about this with pillar pages and things, but make sure that you're linking to your own content to make your website into an absolutely essential tool to give it everything that you need. A lot of this is still 2023 SEO, but it's just making sure that you're more thoughtful about how it works. We used to be able to write a little bit for robots, and that was tricky because it's tough to write for the Googlebot to get ranked as well as humans. Now it's mostly just write for humans and trust that the bot is going to pick it up. Right. So content still what you need to have on your website. So content is still king. Content is one of those things that there's no replication or there's no alternative to having great text on your website. Um, a lot of people still don't have any video on their website. They don't have any YouTube. They don't have any embedded content. I do still like YouTube for embedded video because you can load and AI optimize the words inside of that video, and all of that content shows up in the search. And so people can search for content that you're talking about. If you have interesting contextual things that you're demoing or that you're looking through, or if you have complicated thoughts or processes, having comprehensive content that takes a number of different types is super helpful. And then, of course, making sure that you distribute it and that you're providing links at least to LinkedIn if you're in B2B, on Facebook or X or Instagram or TikTok, now that it's still here for the next 70 days or so. Um, you can continue to generate that content. Think about where your customers are. Make sure that you have helpful, useful content in those networks and only the ones that make sense. If people aren't going to, if you're a consumer brand, focusing heavily on LinkedIn probably doesn't make sense. Vice versa, if you're a B2B brand, maybe only having an Instagram account isn't going to generate the kinds of context and the kinds of interest that you're looking for. So make sure that you're building that. And then, of course, refine your efforts. So I say this over and over again on our webinars. If you're not measuring, you're not marketing. And if you're not looking at your results, there's simply no way to improve. So the big things to look at as you're consuming or looking at your Google Analytics, for example, your other analytics in your tools of choice, look at your traffic and make sure that you're looking at the search intent behind those keywords that you're getting found for. Tools like SEMrush have a very clear call out on what the search intent is based on the context of what people are finding. If you only rank for a specific kind of intent, if you're only ranking for informational versus transactional, you need to think about what other ways you can phrase the content on your website. So you need to have a new blog post for your ideal persona when they're ready to buy, if you only have informational. Thinking about all of the different facets or all of the different kinds of questions that you need to answer. Interview your sales team and ask them, okay, well, what are the big objections that our content sees? Or when you're having a sales conversation, what are people's concerns? Is it that it's expensive, that they don't understand the process? What are the things that they hiccup on? Ask your frontline teams, what are the frequent questions that people get stuck at? And then generate content to answer those questions. That does two things, of course. It helps you have to answer less of those questions because it's out there in helpful form, but it also improves and adds more prisms to the light coming into your website. So you're getting many more opportunities, more bites at the apple. And then conversions, look at how the conversions are going. Are leads getting generated or sales getting made? We don't really care as much about how many clicks you get. What you're looking at is the quality of the leads that are coming in, the connections, the traffic. If you get listed on one of those link farms that I was talking about and you get 10,000 leads from the other side of the world and you're a local coffee shop, that's not helpful at all, right? So making sure that you're getting the right kinds of content from the right kinds of people is going to be super helpful. Okay, we're at about 40 in, and so I want to give folks another chance to ask questions. I do have Q&A coming up right here. Before we dig into that Q&A, I do want to invite people to, if you're at all involved in HubSpot, on February 19th, we are hosting a HubSpot user group hug with Kyle Jepson. If you're at all in the HubSpot ecosystem, Kyle is the chief evangelist of HubSpot Academy, and he knows everything about the tool, and he's going to show us how to troubleshoot and things that every admin need to know. We've got a massive amount of people already registered for this one, and I'm super excited about it. And then coming up on March 5th, how to scale smarter using AI content remix to amplify your content production, right? So I was talking about how to use AI smarter. We're going to dig deep into this one, and we're going to have a ton of fun because we're going to shake it up and show you not only how HubSpot's tools can do this, but some of the key things that you need. So that's my little ad, and then I'm going back. Let's answer some questions. So again, keep those questions coming. I don't see any on YouTube right now, but if you do have questions, go ahead and pop those into chat. So thank you all for the folks who have. But question one, I just started using Gemini and I'd love to know how to use it more effectively and efficiently. What I would encourage you to do, especially if your company has Google Workspace, make sure that your admin has activated the Gemini tools. Spoiler alert, they changed their pricing in Google Workspace to just include Gemini now. So even if you don't think you need it or that you haven't requested it and you're not using it, you are now paying for it. So use every bit of Gemini you can. Try asking it about generating images. Ask it about content. Ask it to help you optimize an ad campaign. Just start thinking about Gemini as, okay, well, there's this robot here that can help me with the world's largest search engine and the source of 64% of the entire web traffic in the US. So maybe I should ask it some things about how to rank better, how to do better, and what to say. If you're looking for customer response rates and improving those in email marketing, I would encourage you first to look at the different people that you're trying to reach and make sure that you're looking at your numbers. If you send an email to, let's say, 1,000 people and 300 people open that email, but only 2 people click through, that either means that you were interesting in your email, but you didn't give the people that were interested enough to open the email enough context to go somewhere else, or that you just have something that's not as interesting as you might have thought. Conversely, if you have that same 1,000 person open rate on an email, or you send to 1,000 people and only 50 people open it, but 48 of those 50 people actually click through, you probably have found yourself a niche. So you found people that are explicitly interested in whatever those people were clicking on. I would take that list of the 48 people and I would make it into its own list and give those people more of what that content is. So go after your niches, drill down, give them more of what they're looking for. This is one of the places where HubSpot can be incredibly helpful because you can use marketing automation to turn your marketing into a choose your own adventure. So give them that information. Um, a user asked, are keywords still valuable? Yes, but it's not just keywords anymore, right? So you're not trying to focus and optimize for, insert your favorite tag here. You're trying to think more about the entire conversation and the different ways that people are coming to a purchase decision for your business. How do we become Google verified and screened? Hey, I know who that was. So Angela, we'll talk about that after. And send me an email at dave@busyweb.com to just have a deeper conversation because I need to know a bit more. For everyone that doesn't know, I'm a Google trainer. And so I have access to some Google team and can usually figure some things out. And that's that frustration with the video process. Do we pay to play, and how do we access our two distinct audiences? So for pay to play, advertising is helpful. And where it's most helpful is in rapidly prototyping or ideating to make sure that you're getting the results that you're looking for. So if you're trying to optimize for two different first steps in your buyer's journey, and you want to know which one of those two is going to do better, throw a little bit of advertising at it and see what the click-through rates are. One's going to outperform. Go with the one that performs best, right? Or if you don't get anything on either, it just lets you stop that immediately. One of the problems with search engine optimization, and especially now into everything optimization for all those tools, it's almost impossible to get immediate feedback on if the content that you're sending out is going to perform well. Running advertising makes it into an instantaneous thing. So that's when I would use it. You don't need to make huge spends, especially for most B2B. You don't need to generate a ton. But if you need to reach a specific kind of person at a very specific time with very specific content, paying to play does make a lot of sense. Just make sensible bets and then improve after you've proved out the efficacy of your keywords or your message. And then always trying to understand different ways to optimize websites. There are a ton of different ways to optimize websites. There's lots of blogs, lots of things that you can keep track of. In general, though, if I was giving you one piece of advice, and I'll leave us at this today unless we get more questions, just be as useful as possible to the people that are searching for your business before they know what your business's name is. So think about what you would say to someone who's never heard of you before in order to get them interested in buying if they're your customer or your potential customer. Focus on that content, give them that information, think about it from all sides, give them an entire pillar and bridge content out and research and link back and forth between all of the different kinds of content. Think about those different keyword intents. Think about EEAT and how you can get to people by proving your experience, expertise, authority, and what was the T? Trustworthiness. And then everything will start panning out for you. The world hasn't completely changed, but it has changed enough that you just need to focus more on helpful, useful, interesting content. And there's just no cheater code anymore to getting content out. You just need to be as useful as possible, as many times as possible, with genuine content that is updated semi-regularly. Having a website that's 3 years old that hasn't been touched in 3 years is not going to generate results. Having a website that's been updated a couple times in the past month that has relevant keywords is going to outperform 100 to 1 a website that hasn't been touched. So just think about that and build it. Okay, so that's what I promised. And so here's again a reminder. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. If you have additional questions, would love to chat with you at dave@busyweb.com, or you can just say hello@busyweb.com, and you have all of our information here. As a matter of fact, here's my actual contact info. So would love to see you and connect with you then. Don't forget, February 19th and March 5th, we've got 2 more live content pieces coming up, and can't wait to help you and see you again soon. Talk to you all soon. Thanks again. Bye, everybody.